Now we are recording. So welcome everyone to our third session of the Akamai Digital Citizenship Hui. And we're so happy to see all of you. We were so fortunate that Jamie was here for Schools of the Future. And so there we are in the first picture pretending to work hard. No, we were. And the second picture is during his presentation, so we were there to support him. And then the third one is just us having fun because we're so happy to see each other in person. So I'm Janine Nakakura. I am a resource teacher with the Hawaii Department of Education at OSID, the Office of Curriculum and Instructional Design, and I'll let Faith introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. Faith Ishihara, same office as Janine. So glad you could join us today.
And then Jamie can introduce himself. And while he's introducing himself, I will continue to add the agenda.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Marlo, I see you from afar. I saw you at the Schools of the Future, and Pam, thanks a lot for showing up. But I'm so excited to be here with you all. And currently, I serve as a Western Regional Manager, and I direct school district implementation for the western half of the United States, and also help teachers think about how to address digital literacy skills. So welcome. And yeah, my little one might show up again because it's dinner time at our household. So I'm excited to be presenting her at some point. So
yeah, we're so we like to see Amelie pop in here and there. Okay, so this is a recap of session 2. One, we need to check our digital habits regularly. And Jamie gave examples of implementation in other school districts. And Faith went over the road to common sense education recognition. And hopefully you are all on the road to recognition. And if not, hopefully at least we can help you get started or thinking about it. Next slide. So Jamie, I added this, surprise. We did meet at Schools of the Future in person to go over the slides, and then Jamie did some asynchronous work when he got back home, and so did I, so some of this might be new. So Digital Citizenship Week highlights. We just wanted to remind you that last week was Digital Citizenship Week, but every week should be Digital Citizenship Week. And Faith made these cute little favors to give out at our office, and you can see the template if you click on the link if you want to make your own. And I made something with Smarties, to give out in our office and in the hallway and at Day of Innovation at Littlewood High School. And then also, I just want to continue to plug their newsletters. I got another newsletter from Jeff Knudsen at Common Sense Education, and he had a whole bunch of resources, but mainly he said, we have to model the behavior that we want to see. And so I thought that was a good quote, and there's a whole bunch of resources. You can take a look later if you have time or you're interested. Then finally, my favorite guy, Miles Best, he is so hip and cool and great for high school and even middle school. So I thought this might be, these videos are just so awesome. There's a new one. I was so excited, so I have to go and watch it. And there's a lesson that goes with it. So if you want to learn more about algorithms and how they control you, that's a great lesson for high school. Okay, so on the next slide, I added this to Jamie, surprise. Okay. Hey, by the way, can some Faith or Jamie, would you be able to add the agenda link to the chat for the people who just joined us? Thank you. So what we were talking about at Schools of the Future was at our 4th session, which will be in November, we wanted to share our highlights from, the sessions, the 4 sessions. And so please add your input to this slide deck for session 4. And hopefully, you can think of at least 1 or 2 or 3 things that stood out or that you thought were really great resources or tips or highlights. And you can click on that link to get to that document. And I'll send a reminder. But on the next slide, we do have our agenda. And everything you need, all the links to everything is all on this agenda. So you just click on that link and it should be in the chat also. So you can get our slides. And we also have a new updated, can we go back to that? Real quickly, we updated our Akamai online website. And so it's streamlined and it should be even better than before. So if you were using our old website, this is the new one. Okay, next slide. So any questions, put them into the chat, and we'll also add them to our FAQs and try to answer them. So next slide. Here we go with the interactive, first interactive question. So in the chat, can you tell us some ways that you support your ʻOhana or family around tech use? So today we'll be focusing on how do we, get the ʻOhana on board when we're trying to teach good digital citizenship habits and behaviors, with our students. Okay? Because they only spend part of the day in school. What would you like them to take home, or how do you support the ʻOhana to help the students become good digital citizens? Okay? So what are ways you support your ʻOhana around tech use? And Jamie says he often finds himself having to educate our ʻOhana around basic tech skills. And one thing I learned about Jamie, which I found surprising from meeting him in person, he's going to go, oh, what is she? His phone. He has this really old Razor phone, like 7 years old, you said, and it's kind of beaten up because his daughter has dropped it and it has a crack in it. But I thought he was going to be this high-tech guy, but no, he really has this. It's a flip phone. It's like a flip. Yeah. So anyway, that surprised me. So I see other things in the chat. Pam says, if it's her mom, she gives up, decided she does not need to be connected. I show her things on my tech, laughing out loud. Clifford Neal says, inform them of some dangers in tech and the advantages. And Charles shared with us in the office the other week, yeah, his dad just got an iPhone and he's trying to, he's 77, enough said, okay? No device dinners, talk about appropriate use and the dangers out there. Yes, Marlo, I saw her in person too, so it was great to see you at Schools of the Future and good to see you here. So keep adding them to the chat, and what we'll do in the next slide is, type your responses into that slide so that people who are watching the recording can see the answers in the chat. Okay, so next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Jamie now. It's his turn, and he's going to make some connections.
Thanks, Jenny. I really appreciate it. And thanks for all the insights and calling out. You're absolutely right. I'm like old school when it comes down to phone use. I don't know why, but I just want to try to model for my child and family like appropriate use and what one is time to let go, right? I think what we're going to do over the next, I would say about 10 minutes is maybe give you kind of a foundation for how to discuss these topics with ʻOhana. So, irrespective of the roles that you have, it's key to kind of have a framework, a sort of an approach to kind of assess these things. And so I'm going to give you 3. And then what I'm hoping to do is have just kind of a conversation about if you use a different model with your families or you work directly or indirectly with school leaders, just thinking about how you can simplify it so it doesn't become an overwhelming kind of connection to you all. So does that make sense? All right, let's enjoy it. So the first thing I'm going to encourage is something that I found last week when I was visiting, and this idea that this interconnectedness that we have with our families and our teachers and our students. And one of the beautiful things is a quote that we saw. Faith, would you mind just sharing it? I always like your voice on camera, so just sharing kind of the slide itself, the quote that was shared.
Sure. Just reading the slide?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Digital citizenship is the recognition of our kuleana to the relationships that we develop and nurture. It takes into consideration the impact that our actions have on these relationships with those around us, with our place, with our communities, with the world. From Ka'anohi.
And I think it's a really great reminder for us to think about what those initial connections you have and what families, how they're connected, not only with the school, but with their kids, with their kiki. So like one of the beautiful things that I would start with is exploring what those connections are with the families that you work with. So let me give you a few examples and then we can kind of move on with some very specifics. Oftentimes I hear from big departments to say it's really difficult to reach our ʻOhana because they're all over the place. Yet we have a monthly newsletter. We have a monthly an ongoing messaging platform that we use. And so maybe that is the direction that you use, right? That connection using the platform of the messaging boards that you use as a way to connect with your families. Maybe you decided this month or this year in your ʻOhana, it's about finding better ways to support their keiki literacy. And so the idea is that you want to tie in some of these skills that we're going to go over with literacy. And so the key here is to make sure that there's some authentic transfer of connections that families have. They need to understand the why behind this. And this is a really great way to define that. So do me a favor, either on the chat or either closing your eyes, think about what the why is for you. What is the why? Why do you want to essentially share family or share resources or share tech resources, in particular in digital citizenship resources with your family? What's the reason for it in your community? Feel free to share it on the chat by typing or just maybe closing your eyes and reflecting on it because it's helpful. And as you're doing that, Brian, I'll just compliment your cat or what appeared to be a cat that came across your screen. It's very nice, yeah. Okay. I'll give you some time to just, enter your information in if you want. Yeah, it's the idea of showing aloha. I really appreciate you modeling that, Janine, right? Let's see. Yeah, personal relationships. Absolutely, Molly, you're so spot on, right? We want to make sure that we can empathize with what our families are grappling with every day when they're at home. And sometimes that what they're grappling with is tech overuse or tech misuse. So absolutely. All right. So if this is a hard prompt for you, or you're just like, Jamie, move on because I'm already hungry already, or whatever the case is, I'll just encourage you to pause because this is a really great start to define and to build those connections as what we're sharing. All right. So let me give you 3 recommendations now that potentially could help drive the work forward for you all. The first is more often than not, our ʻOhana are often seeking quality content. And oftentimes they are relying on platforms like Netflix or Disney to feed them that type of content. And it really is up to us to take that back because we know that these platforms by design are not intended, despite all the parental controls, they're not intended to keep the best interests or the developmental skills needed for our kids. So our efforts here is really to rethink that, to say this is the types of quality content we believe to be helpful for your particular family. And what I'm going to do, and you can kind of see this, is I'm going to share with you, and I shared this last Friday, but I thought it was really helpful, is at Common Sense we offer a best of list. I'm going to click on the link just so you know kind of what this looks like and how this works out. So on the left-hand side, you'll see best movies for kids, best TV for kids, best apps. One encouragement might just simply to be just share this link, and it provides families, assuming, again, we have like big kids 8 to 9 years old, and we click on best apps for them. We've helped you kind of assess what we believe to be the best apps, again, for last year, great apps to play with. I won't go through the entire list, but it's really helpful to start to develop that narrative. We have a unbiased sort of rubric that we cover that lists a number of really great ways in which we're looking at apps or books or media. But the goal here is to make sure that we want to make sure that we ask families, how do you assess the quality of the content that you're seeking, and what does that look like for you? And if you get a response, well, sometimes I just give them the phone, or oftentimes I don't know the quality, this might be a really great resource that you can pull from and then start sharing bits of it at a time, right? I'll give you a quick example. Halloween is coming up. If your kid is interested, your kiki is interested in looking at scary movies that are developmentally appropriate for them, here's a list of what we have, and I can kind of share that way for you. It helps to develop that connection. So any questions on that or any thoughts on that? Selecting quality content is key to helping and supporting our ʻOhana. All right, wonderful. The second tip I'm going to share is we want to make sure that we are seeking and developing kind of a core cadence on healthy tips around media balance at home. And so, if families are really struggling with media balance, and this seems to be a really big thing that we get at Common Sense across the country, but if they're struggling with that, one of the really interesting things that you can do is start to regularly send them messages and tips on how they can address some of these issues. And let me give you again another example that might be helpful. What I would recommend if I'm in your shoes is if you work directly with families, that you share a tip of the week, a tip of the month. Now, if you work indirectly with families and you're sort of supporting educators or supporting structures in place, what I would consider doing is creating themes that could be then redistributed from the educators that you work with to say, this month we're going to focus, for example, this week is around media balance week or media awareness week. This might be, what are the helpful tips around media balance and media tips. So let me kind of, again, share what this is, this resource here. These are by design. What we have is a sort of resource guide for families. And so if, for example, I look at family tips, you will see here they are broken down by grade level. You can kind of start to see things like media balance and well-being, privacy and security. They're all broken down by the topics that we have at Common Sense. I'm just going to choose one. This is a media balance and well-being. I click on this. And if I show this, I will kind of start to see these small tidbits, right? Now you can print this out as a PDF. You can copy and paste one of them at a time. But again, the key is develop a cadence, develop a rhythm that you can then share with families on that. Let me pause for a second now to see if there's any questions or any like aha moments. All right.
Hey, Jeannie, this is Janine. I just realized after 3 sessions that those fingers, the blinking finger thing,
it's so
that's
cute.
the link.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I just realized that blinking finger is the link.
Should be like a no here, yeah.
Am I the only one that didn't know that?
So recommendation number 2, one more time, is to make sure that you have ongoing kind of cadence and messaging. If you've already built that in internally, see if you can plug and play this. Now, if you're like, Jamie, I need a whole comprehensive list of messages that I can send because I don't want to do any work, reach out to me and I will send that a repository of all the messages that we have based on grade level that you can share out. These are things that are really helpful. A little paragraph goes a long way to share with families. Now, if you're creating, again, the structure, I would focus on one area first, which is like, let's do an entire initiative around quality content that we believe to be true across the DOE site or across our site. And then that could be a really great way that can hook parents into seeking a little bit more information from you. All right, I have a few minutes remaining, and I just want to close with the third recommendation for us all, which is, I think I have sort of a sample message for you all. I clicked on that piece so you can kind of see what this looks like. The third is really coming back to the start of why this is all important. And again, I shared this last week, but I want to make sure that I emphasize this for folks that are on the call today. For many of our ʻOhana, the number one thing that they really struggle with outside of choosing quality content is setting the right parameters for their kids. And for many of our families, what they struggle with as our kids get a little older is that they don't know the language, not that they don't know, they haven't built up the language needed to create the types of parameters that they want to see in their household. And they often will turn to educators or the schools or even their friends to help to create those boundaries. And so one of the things that I want to recommend is being intentional about the boundaries that you set in the classroom, or being intentional about the boundaries that you set with technology as a whole. Maybe you have your acceptable use policies that you highlight at the very beginning of the year. But what I mean here is to showcase and to pull out and to wean out statements that you think could be beneficial for ʻOhana to then share with their kids. Let me give you a quick example of what that looks like, and then we can open it up for conversation. Um, I'll do one in my own personal life, or I'll share one in my own personal life, and then I'll share one with a number of educators that work directly with families here in the mainland. In my own personal life, I find that I've evolved from talking about time as a pressing issue and a parameter in our household to discussing why we choose the content that we choose. And so in our household, the statement has moved from this is how much time you're spending on this app to information on here are why we choose the content. We choose it because we reinforce our identity in our own culture. We choose it because we like the characters in the content, and we choose it because it allows us to be creative and learn from. And so that statement is now something that my daughter then will replicate or share out. It's important to kind of note that difference for us all. So that would be one. The second example is I've worked with educators most recently that shared, Jamie, I've already shared my rules at the very beginning, and I don't need to share my rules anymore because the kids know what the rules are. And the key here is to say, well, what does that look like for each unit? Or what does that look like for when our kids are engaged in collaboration on Google Docs or wherever they're at? And then being able to share that afterwards. So being comfortable then sharing that with families. For our next unit, we have a collaboration that's taking place on Google Docs. We encourage you to practice at home what healthy relationships online look like. And here's a boundary statement or parameter statement that you can then practice at home or share at home. Is this making sense, everyone? Like, are we rolling with it? All right. Any questions or any thoughts before I close my session to transition into faith? All right. Pam, I either see that your hands are saying like you've given me a headache, Jamie, or you're rubbing your sides of your temple. Either way, I like your nonverbals. And Kevin, I like that you're paying a lot of attention to the tabs that you have. So thank you for showcasing your camera on that. Just want to appreciate your presence on virtual spaces. So, all right. So let me recap one more time is quality content. We want to do a cadence of messaging for tips that are helping families. And then the third is reassuring through statements that you share how to create healthy boundaries around tech use. Again, I'll close with this. This is a family media agreement. You can always take documents from here, copy and paste that into your own classroom agenda if you are a classroom educator. Otherwise, you can, if you're doing this at a DOE level, at an instruction level, you can start taking statements like this and exploring what the alignment looks like to your acceptable use policies. All right. I think I'll close off with just with faith and sort of documenting recognition for this process and how all of this relates to your recognition area. But before I do, is there any questions or any thoughts that you all have? Any, again, aha moments or curiosities that you have that I can help to answer? All right, Miss Faith, you are up.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. I really love what you shared. Just three simple, doable tips: quality content, cadence for communication, and creating boundaries. Very doable. Thank you. So, next slide. I just wanted to kind of review our process here. So, when we first met, our first session, we all learned about common sense education and the wealth of resources that are available for us. And then we selected whatever would fit our situation and taught a lesson to students or colleagues. And now we're looking at how we can engage the larger community, our ʻOhana, the families that we work with, so that they can reinforce what's happening in school for our students. So it's a common message that the students get, whether they're at home or in school. And the next time we get together, we'll be reflecting. But for today, for engaging, we'll look at the next slide. And the roadmap to getting recognized offers a whole bunch of ideas on how you can select to engage your ʻOhana. So this is that list that comes from the roadmap. And I personally like that family media agreement that Jamie shared a little earlier. It's again, like many of Common Sense Education's resources, very doable, very clear, and I think parents and their children can come to an agreement on how to balance their life with media and how to make wise choices when they're online and staying responsible and respectful. So in the next slide, we're going to ask you if you could put in the chat some of the ideas that you think, okay, I've heard a lot of things, and I think one or two resonate with me, and this is what I'm thinking to do to address that engagement piece. So the last time we met, we had asked, how do you plan to use what you learned in that last session? And some of the ideas, without, I took out the names, but work with my librarian to help prepare for our family night, our parent night, or collaborating with the PCNC on our campus to kind of support the education or communication that goes out. So if you put some ideas in the chat, and we'll add them to this chat response, and we'll have sort of like a crowdsourcing of ideas. So yes, besides the idea you select, you might see other ideas to add to it or for next time. So it's a great way to kind of pool our thoughts and support each other. Ooh, Clifford Neal, I like making videos to show safety, especially as a parent. Yes, that is really a super idea. And if you have that talent to make the video, thumbs up. Um, Celeste is sharing best practice tips. Um, Thank you so much. So please continue to add to that, and I'll just share a little bit about a few upcoming slides. So maybe the next slide while you type. That we do have a feedback form as we for each of our sessions. So we really appreciate your sharing with us your thoughts about this session. And the next slide, as I mentioned, the next time we meet, we'll be talking about reflections. So we hope you can join us at that time as well. Next slide. So, Jamie talked about reaching out to him, and he's been so gracious to share his email with everybody. So here it is. If you wanted some of those extra resources or just somebody to share ideas, bounce ideas off with, he's given us his email here, and you can sign up for the Common Sense Education news weekly newsletter here. Also, there's a link. And
happy to even do your parent session with you. Yeah, this would be great. Yeah, I'm happy.
wow,
You guys are good people.
Amy, you're so awesome. Thank you. So today's special word is family. So if your first name has the most letters in common with family, you'll get some special door prizes that we hope you enjoy. And then we're just about time for our optional 15 minutes hearing from teachers. So I'll let Janine introduce Celeste, our special guest.
Thank you so much, Faith and Jamie. And I did put the feedback form link into the chat. So please, give us your feedback. We really appreciate all of your comments, and even just sharing what you're doing with digital citizenship really lets us know what's happening in the field. And here we have somebody from the field who is a tech coordinator and teacher, computer science teacher at Queen Ka'ahumanu Elementary. Interesting fact, I know Celeste very well because she was my student at Kaiser High School. I don't know, when was that, in the 80s, maybe 90s, I don't know. But she just won an award, the Making It Happen Award for the Hawaii Society for Technology Education or something like that. And
Thanks
so
so much.
congratulations. And is that the lei you got?
Can I just say something that it's because of all of us that I mean, we can only make it happen when all of us work together. So it's
Exactly.
for representative of all of us. So can we go like this? We
Yeah. So
like
I'd like to introduce Celeste Endo. And she's correct. You know, it's all of us working together. And then we can turn out great people like Celeste. And just this weekend, I found out 2 of my former students are principals. I can't believe it, and it was so awesome to see them. So anyway, I'll turn it over to Celeste, and she's going to share some of her experiences from the field with digital citizenship lessons. Okay, all yours, Celeste. Welcome. Thank you.
well, we're definitely building our ohana here. So to all brothers and sisters of this computer science family, let's go like this. We and put your hands over here. We are all stars. And we sparkle in our own way. I learned that from Millie. And guys, you know, we have all this energy from our friends and family, and we think about the trusted adults that keep us safe when you talk to kids, trusted adults, and our families and friends who, you know, always support us. We're gonna wrap their energy around ourselves for a big blanket of aloha. And on the count of 3, let's give them all a big mahalo. 1, 2, 3, mahalo. So that's one of the ways we love to start off our class. Just remembering that it's all of us together. We got to work together and learn computer science and learn all the things in life together. Cannot do in silos, gotta do it together. So mahalo everyone for being here today. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the aha moments I had last year from Christy Oda, she said, you know, she was talking about blank books. I'm like, what are blank book journals? But we had an assignment to do in code.org is to take reflections. And so we started using these blank book journals. And for the older kids, we'll have a glossary. And for the younger kids, it'll be all blank. But what's really nice is that the first lessons in code.org are common sense media lessons. Did you know that? It's so awesome. They work collaboratively together. And throughout the different lessons during code.org, they build and they pull the good stuff from Common Sense Media. So it's really neat how, you know, we're all working together. We're all learning this together. So here are some reflections, real short, kind reflections from our journals. They're so proud of them, you know. They're like, Miss Endo, look at this. And they're looking to showing all their friends. They're just so proud. Okay, and then that's a rainbow of opportunity you see on a lot of their journals. Next slide, please. So we had some earlier common sense media lessons, and the one was about you know, cyberbullying and bullying in general. And so this is one girl, you know, it's amazing because some of the people that don't have great self-esteem, at first you think they come up with the really cool things. So, and you say, oh, I'm so proud of you. And they just light up, you know? But here's some really cool journals about how to keep ourselves safer in life and on the internet. So, and next slide, please. This is a digital trails lesson, and then we have all the little kids scurrying like mice and or stomping like a big elephant to find the elephant trails, you know, that are not so safe digital trails. Or we have to identify what is good to share and not good to share. And that was a first grade lesson. But you take a look, and this is all about keeping our ohana safe. We talk about, you know, what's okay to share. For example, what do you think? Is it okay for us to share that we like pizza? Why? Why? To put in the chat. Why is it okay to share we like pizza? Go. Why? Why is it okay to like share we have pizza? We love pizza because pizza is found. Oh, I'm craving pizza. It doesn't identify us right. We have pizza where? Where can we find pizza, everybody? All around the world. There's no personal information. All right. Yeah. So it's okay to share things like favorite foods, favorite hobbies, favorite, just our favorite things in general, and our opinions. But we also talk about what's not okay to share, and like the personal information that can pinpoint us where it's like, can I say I love to go to the park? Is that okay to share? Yeah, I think so. But what about this? I cannot wait to go to Makiki Park at 3:30 p.m. today. What do you think? Is that okay to share? No way. Because that's where people can find us. No way. Okay, so that's the kind of things we like to bring it down a little bit to the levels to make it really clear to the kiddies. Okay, next slide, please. And then for the older kids, lesson course E, so that's more like fourth graders, we have this private and personal information that we also talk about. And so if you want to, the links are on the bottom. We'll point to the lesson. All right, but don't have to go there right now. I want other people to share too. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so we talk about, and the kids can identify what's okay to share and what's not okay to share. And we gotta talk about why. And so what's okay to share on the internet, what's okay to share in person, that kinds of stuff. All right. And yeah, and these journals are so handy because a lot of times we don't have the technology right away ready at the beginning of school year, but they'll write in the journals, or the kids have that extra time because they finish fast. They'll be the ones to write more things or draw in the journals. It's pretty cool. Okay, next slide, please. And then, yeah, so this is the actual, so there's pizza characters inside code.org's lessons, and there's going to be lessons about building my projects. So all about me projects. So the kids are learning safe internet usage as they're building their projects. So that's what this image is about. They got to talk about or put things that are not going to identify them and just be things that we can find all around the world, or safe to share. Okay, next slide, please. So everyone gets involved. We do a lot of moment too. All right. Yeah, so this mini me all about me project, we had to identify what's good to share and what's not good to share. And we already talked about this during our earlier very first lessons, and so it's again reinforcing the common sense media lesson. And what's so cool is that one of our students, who traditionally he was shy, he came up with this lesson. And if you click on the project, I got to tell him, wow, this is incredible, and it's all about SEL, social emotional learning. If you can click on that, it would show how it works. And if you click on the people, they'll
Sorry
start
about
talking.
that.
Yeah. Sorry.
People.
Run the code.
Should I hit run?
Yeah, hit run. And then if you could click on the people. Thank you. Hello, are you boys going to school? Hi, do you need help? Yes, I do. So it's all about helping each other, working together. And thank you all for working together and helping each other. Okay, yeah, anyone else want to add?
So Les, I was going to ask you a question. So once all these lessons are there, do the families ʻOhana then get do you then share what's happening in the classroom, or do they then share? You get the report out that the kids are then sharing what not to report out online?
Good question. We just started sharing their work, their projects inside Google Classroom, so they can see their work and shared with all their friends. And if the families wanted to, I got to get better at connecting the families to it, but that's a possibility. That's our next step, Jamie.
Well, Celeste, this is Jane, your former high school teacher, speaking. It was so awesome to see you as Pizza, and your energy and sharing of your lessons was so awesome and inspirational. So thank you so much for volunteering. And she got up early this morning, I think before school started, to add her slides in. And last week was Schools of the Future, so it's been a busy week for her. And she really, she never says no. She always says yes, and so thank you so much. And keep up the good work. Love your costumes.
We can totally make the kids can be the pizza. They can put a headband if we're worried about germs.
So any questions or comments? I'm going to turn off the recording, by the way, since we're officially over. So I'm going to stop the recording. So if any of you are shy